is wondering if service advisors get thrown to the wolves like technicians. There's your proof right there.
Step back and think what they actually need, right? Your ROI. Like he's talking about electric ratchets, stuff like that. And those do save you a lot of time, right? How common this is and how much it really drives the turnover rate, and it gives the industry a bad look. Welcome back to the show. I'm Anthony, your 25-year and running ASE Master Tech with 7 years of managing high volume dealerships. And with me is my co-host, Craig, who's also 19 years and running with ASE Master Tech and his L1 and L2. Now, Craig was at the dealerships, but he stepped out a while ago and he's still turning wrenches, just not in the dealership world. And I find that to be a good balance. So with over 45 years of experience, we're going to dive into some real industry stories and some questions. And this episode, there are really a few questions, one from a new advisor, one from a new technician. And then we have the epic and real main issue with the entire industry right now. We have a technician posted on why dealerships can't find or keep techs. And his points are exactly what I've made so many times. I kind of feel bad for even posting it, but I like seeing other people, what they have to say and what they're seeing. And it's really the exact same thing I'm seeing. So I'm really glad to kind of see that. Makes me feel a little more sane. But we have a new technician asking about tool investments, whether or not he should continue buying tools while he's got low expenses or whether he should wait. And there's a lot of good advice on that. And I got a lot of good thoughts on that. And then we got a new advisor who's asking, he's basically saying the technicians don't respect him and wants to know how he can gain the respect of the technicians. And we'll dive into that as well. Actually, we're going to start on that one. So let's just dive right in and read this. This is really short. But he says, new service advisor here. Techs don't respect me and I'm struggling to hit my upsell targets. Does it get better? He said, I'm new to being a service advisor with no mechanical background. The techs barely give me the time of day, and it's hard to confidently explain repairs to customers when my own team treats me like I don't belong. Says, I'm also struggling with upselling. I either undersell or I miss my numbers or push too hard, and the customer shuts down. Can't find the balance. Says, for experienced service advisors, how did you earn the tech's respect early on, and how did you get comfortable selling without feeling like a scammer? That's very important. Really just the fact he feels like that. So I don't know. I got some thoughts on that, but he says, I want to make this work, but I'm close to burning out. So Craig, what's your thoughts on this? I got a lot of thoughts on this, and I'd like to hear what you're thinking first before I dive in.
So if anyone's listening is wondering if service advisors get thrown to the wolves like technicians, there's your proof right there. I think that's a pretty average experience, to the first service writing job. Automotive repairs is grudge spending, whether we like it or not, is as essential as our vehicles are. It's a struggle to sell to people that don't want to spend money on their vehicles, on their depreciating, assets. So this is where someone's coming into this industry, and as this writer says, he doesn't understand. He doesn't come from a mechanical background. He's never done this before. He's got, unfortunately, learn trial by fire. And the technicians, they're probably just seeing another person at the desk that's probably going to be gone in a couple months anyway. This is something a lot of us have seen time and time again. I've had service advisors from at dealership groups that the service director had a good experience while they were waiting a table for him at a restaurant, and they hired him as a writer. And that's not to say no one should get an opportunity, not by any means or any stretch of the imagination, but it's a whole nother world. And selling is a huge part of the job, but it's not all of it. And that's where customers, they can really spot, when you don't know everything, and especially when you're nervous talking to people trying to sell them things, they can see it, they can sense it, and it compiles into this.
No, I agree. And you have some really good points there. Especially with them getting thrown to the wolves, and they do. And to me, I'm almost thinking like when you said that, it's almost better to throw them to the wolves, changing oil and in the shop a little bit to earn that respect and then move up to a service advisor. But a lot of time, they may not be looking for that. They're looking for a service advisor. But new advisors, the fact he's actually asking the question, it's a great question, right? He's asking how to earn the respect of technicians, and whether you're a tech, you may be a new technician coming into it, you may be a new advisor coming into it, or even in management. How to earn the respect of technicians is really a good thing to ask. And first, you got to understand the mind frame of a technician, right? We're flat rate, we're hustling, we can't be lazy. So, really, the best thing you can do is respect their time, don't be lazy, do your job to the best of your ability, and learn as much as possible because they're doing all that in the shop. And that to me as a technician, and one of the points you made was they're probably seeing it as a guy sitting at a desk that'll be gone in 90 days. And unfortunately, that's very true, right? We see so much turnover in the shops, whether it's a technician or an advisor. It's almost like, there's going jokes in shops where you don't even, you know, in the shop, for the guys that's been there for a while, it's like, well, here, we don't even remember their name till they're there for 90 days. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate, right? You're just like, we'll see if he makes it past 90 days, then we'll learn his name. And that's insane. And I was talking to somebody else, and he says it's the same way in sales, and I kind of believe it. But it's kind of sad for the dealership as a whole, where, your turnover is that bad. You got the guys who's been there for a while saying it's not even worth remembering a name until they've been there for 90 days. And it can be very intimidating coming into a shop, when people are, I don't want to say, he feels like he don't belong. And that's unfortunate that they make him feel like that, but it can be intimidating. And the fact he's actually answering the question, wanting to earn the respect. I mean, the best thing you can do when a service advisor wastes a technician's time, he remembers that, right? You're clocking every 10th. And if you got a service advisor constantly wasting your time, you're losing their respect because it shows them you don't understand how they operate. You don't understand flat rate. You don't understand the more efficient they are, the more money you make, and it's going to lose respect. You're right; they're going to lose respect for you. If you're lazy, they're hustling 20. I don't say 24/7, but they're hustling all day at work. Right? The good techs are. If you're lazy, it's going to be very hard for a good technician to respect you. Just now, here they should always treat you respectfully, but they may not have that respect for you. And then doing your job well. A technician, the quality, maybe not everybody, but Craig, I'm assuming you hold your work to pretty high quality, right?
I like to think so.
Yeah, I mean, nobody who's been around that long, likes putting out low quality of work, right? They do their job well and they take pride in it. Anybody who's been in this business long enough knows that. And if you're a service advisor and you're not doing that, you're going to lose respect from the technicians and really not learning as much as possible. If you just seem like you don't want to learn, that's a bad look to a technician because they're constantly learning. So it's those four things are the best things I could tell any new advisor, any technicians, or really even any manager, right? If you're trying to earn respect of your technicians, respect their time. Don't be lazy. Do your job to the best of your ability and learn as much as possible. To me, it's when I step back as a technician and look at it, it's really that simple. You got any other thoughts on that, Craig?
I do. And this is an opportunity not to get too off track, but to point out one of the flaws of flat rate and for technicians in that they there's so many things that in ways matters that they don't control their own paycheck, and this is one of them. And this is, and also, I'm sure contributes to the technicians' lack of, I don't know what to say, call it a lack of faith, but hesitation to accept this new writer, because he's responsible in a way for their paychecks. If he can't sell, it affects them directly. It affects him too, but it really affects them. And this is how
No, absolutely.
you start off on a bad foot, and it compiles from there.
No, it really does. And so that's one thing. I was talking to a manager at work who came up as a service advisor, and I'm trying to get him to come on with it, which he plans on coming on the podcast at some point. He wants to get his hair cut. He's a little a little nervous, but I told him he can't do any worse than I do, right? I'm sitting here sweating bullets. It's 100 degrees where I live. So I'm inside my house. 75 is, if I'm lucky. And, his first thought, his first peace of mind and perspective was sell, right? Technicians respect you if you can sell. And that was the first thing that came to his mind, because I sent him, the stories we were going over, and, invited him to, which he may be on in within the next episode or two. But, yeah, you got to be able to sell, which is part of your job. And if you read one of the things he said, which I thought was interesting, he said, how did you get comfortable selling without feeling like a scammer? That is so basically he's saying he does not trust what he's selling. And that's a huge obstacle for any advisor. Like, if you don't trust what your technicians are telling you to sell, if you don't trust what your shop's telling you to sell, if you feel like a scammer, you need to get over that right away by educating yourself, right? You need to learn, why are we selling this? What does this actually do? So you can explain it to your customer. That's the only way you're not going to feel like a scammer. If you feel like a scammer, it's because you don't understand what you're selling. And you can tell this guy's new. You can tell he's probably pretty young. But definitely educate yourself on what you're selling. That's the best way to not feel like a scammer. There's a lot of really good comments in here. One guy just says, leave your emotions at the door, go in and do your job. But when you're a service advisor, so one of the things I used to do, when I was in management, we used to have probably 3 service advisor meetings a week. And that was, we open the doors at 7:30, they'd be there at 7. And I would pull in brand new vehicles from, stock units, PDIs. And I would have all my service advisors get in there, learn the technology, right? Pair your phones, play with everything. We'd go through the entire vehicle, and, every week it'd be a new vehicle, right? So maybe a new Silverado one week, we pull in for 30 minutes one day, just go over the infotainment system. But it's really up to management to train these guys, right? Even coming in as a new service advisor. And you said one thing that was, and I think you've actually said it a few times, because I've kind of remember, because I've seen service advisors come from like restaurants and stuff like that. And actually, I had a really good service advisor. They interviewed, they were coming from Arby's, right? Which you would think, hey, but when I hire a new service advisor, I train them for 2 weeks to 3 weeks straight before I even say they're going to make it. So I worked with this advisor for, might have been 2 weeks, might have been 3 weeks. I don't know. It's been a while ago. But every phone call, every customer that came up, every estimate, every technician interaction, I was right by her side and worked with her throughout it all and trained her, right? If I would have just thrown her to the wolves, she wouldn't have made it. But she honestly became one of my best advisors once she came over the obstacle of selling. She didn't think she was a scammer, but for instance, she had a Suburban, and it just needed tires, right? And these tires were probably close to $300 a piece, right? So she's selling $1,200 worth of tires, and it was kind of overwhelming for her just to sell something that much. Plus, there was other stuff on the estimate and stuff like that. And she drove this little baby Spark, and I said, "Why do you drive a Spark?" And she's like, "Because it's cheap." I'm like, "Right. So if you need tires, it's cheap. If you need gas, it's cheap." She's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, don't worry about the financial decision the person made who bought the Suburban, right? If they need tires, they bought a $70,000 vehicle. You're driving a little Spark. If they need tires and it's $1,200, just tell them. And she just looked at me and just like all clicked. And she became a hammer. She, from Arby's to service advisor. But you can't, like you said, throw them to the wolves and expect to see a good outcome just because they've dealt with people. They got to be trained. And me being in the office as a manager was very rare, right? I would come in the morning, do my paperwork or stay late, do it at lunch. But I've always worked with my advisors, trained them, same with the technicians. But this guy is literally being thrown to the wolves. And I don't, I mean, this was 2 months ago. I don't see any updates from him unless I missed them.
It's easy to miss unless you catch that OP logo on Reddit.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was looking for, but I couldn't find one. I mean, it was 2 months ago. I think there was 60 comments. I don't know if he's going to make it. If he don't have the right support around him, if he feels like the team, if he feels like the team doesn't like him, or what does he say? He says, my own team treats me like I don't belong. And he's on Reddit posting this. So he's concerned enough to get on Reddit and post this, and he feels pretty close to being burned out already. I don't think he'll make it because I don't think he's getting the proper training. What's your thoughts, Craig?
I agree. It's not a good spot he's in unless something clicks for him. That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you don't know how much snake oil that dealership tries to push too. In my experience, most dealerships, when you come in for 50,000 mile service, they're already trying to sell you 4 fluid flushes, which I'm not. I mean, it's part of the job. It does need to be done at a point, but some of them are way too pushy with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, this may be a dealership that's selling right out of the owner's manual. We don't know, but
Right.
You can tell they didn't teach him that, right? They didn't tell him like, hey, these are the services. This is what's in the owner's manual. This is what the manufacturer recommends. He's just not getting trained well or led well. So yeah, I don't know. I hope he keeps at it. I hope he leaves his emotions at the door, as the one guy said. And really the best advice I have as far as earning respect of the technicians to anybody is you need to understand what the technicians are going through in the shop. And their time is their money. Every 6 minutes is a 0.1. If you're wasting their time constantly, that adds up. They're not going to respect you that much. If you're lazy, goes to the same thing. If you're not doing your job well, which does include selling, and if you're not trying to learn. I mean, we've had a new advisor, which honestly just went to parts, and he was everybody's really favorite advisor. He didn't know much, but he was willing to learn, and he'd come into the shop. I think I actually got a TikTok video of him trying to put a big truck tire on. Right? If you go check our TikTok page out, he's the little guy that was throwing up a big truck tire, and he would come down to the shop and try to learn, and it, unfortunately, he got burned out and went to parts. And it's kind of sad because I think, he would have made a really good advisor if he was taught well and kind of brought up properly. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. You got anything else on this one, Craig?
No, I think we got this one covered really well.
No, yeah, I agree. And to me, it's just sad, man. I hate hearing this kind of stuff from anybody entering the industry because it's a bad look on the industry. But hopefully they get through it. So the next one is a technician. And man, I tell you what, my heart goes out to these young guys, right? The new technicians. And that's really what's got me on this, everything we've sat back and done, from the website to the podcast to the AI tools. I've just seen so many young guys come into this industry and leave. And I don't know. It's something that kind of weighs on my heart. I love seeing them do well, even in life. But this guy is asking said, keep buying tools or save my money until I move up. Says, I'm a Toyota Express technician. Probably, I have probably 99% of the tools I need for work. I do every day: oil changes, tire rotations, inspections, batteries, filters, etc. I've upgraded my, I've upgraded the tools I use daily to snap on. So I'm not talking about replacing tools I already have. I'm talking about buying tools I know I'll eventually use, like cordless ratchets, cordless screwdrivers, better pliers, digital torque wrenches, and other tools I'll need once I move up. I also still live at home, so I don't have a rent, a car payment, or any monthly bills. That gives me an opportunity to buy tools now if it makes sense. If you were in my position, would you keep building your toolbox while your expenses are low, or would you save the money and wait until you actually need those tools? Curious what you guys did when you were starting out. Craig, I'll let you jump on this one.
So I read through a lot of the comments, and I'm apparently I'm the odd man out on the opinion, but I think you should start buying lots of those tools. Um, if he's been doing it as long as he has and wants to keep going with it, yeah, now's the time. Your bills are minimal. He's got like nothing. He can really start to buy a lot of stuff in bulk, and it doesn't have to be everything under the sun. But like what he's talking about and other basics, like a good coolant pressure tester, maybe a compression testing kit, things on that end, and specialty Toyota tools that aren't really up supply, but you use every day. It's a perfect time. Um, I don't know really about like there was a lot of suggestions in there, like buying Icon and Harbor Freight. And I really don't know any. I don't have any experience with like the Icon brand. I hear it's pretty close to Snap-on. I had Snap-on stuff before that even came out. So, but yeah, I mean, on paper, if you're going to stay in this, it's perfect time.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely not a bad time. For me, any technician, I just hope they step back and think what they actually need, right? Your ROI. Like he's talking about electric ratchets, stuff like that. And those do save you a lot of time, right? Those are the things that they're going to pay off. You may spend $100 on it, but you go do a time and cover job or time and chains, and you use that on a 16-hour job compared to hand ratchets. That's going to save you a lot of time. But no, I do think, like for instance, my air tools, I don't like electric tools. There's something about, I do have some, right? I have an electric 3/8 cordless snap on impact that I use, but I just got a good deal on it. I prefer like air tools just because I ain't got to worry about the battery. I ain't got to worry about electronics. I've taken air tools apart and fixed them. It's just one of those things. And I've always preferred Ingersoll Rand, but I'm like you. When tools, and this is kind of where my experiences might be a little different because I've had to sell all my tools, which I totally regret when I was in management. Um, but when we came out in this industry, you didn't have all these other options out there, right? You had basically like the Snap on tool truck came, and that was it. Sears had Craftsman, but there wasn't, their professional series. They didn't, you didn't have Harbor Freights everywhere. You didn't have Amazon to order stuff. So honestly, like I had a ton of Snap on tools and Snap on box and everything. And I don't believe in divorce. Never in my life thought I'd have one. But I had a divorce when I was in management and ended up having to get rid of all my tools because it was at home, not at the shop being used. And man, you talk about a knot in your stomach. Like you don't get that money back from the tool. You know what I mean? Like the dollar it's like pennies on the
Pennies.
dollar. Yeah. And when I had to, kind of rebuild that, I told myself I would never buy expensive tools again, you know, but we have that option now to where you didn't have that, 10, 15, maybe 10 years ago, but 15, 20 years ago when we got into this, you didn't have all the options everybody else has. So like really to his question, I know it kind of veered off there, but yeah, get some of the tools you think you'll need, but think of your ROI, right? Your return on investment. And Craig, I know you're not in the dealership world, but I don't know, what does your specialty tools look like where you're at? Because like to me, like back in the day, you needed fuel gauges, you needed a bunch of other stuff to where now it's all done on a laptop. Like the amount of specialty tools we had to buy 15, 20 years ago compared to now, just like fuel gauges and stuff of that nature, it's almost, you get a laptop and what we use is an MDI, and you can pull most of this stuff up on data. Besides a good, DVOM or something like that, there's not much you need, specialty tool wise.
I've got doubles of a lot of stuff. I know I got do I have two, maybe three cooling system pressure testers. I got two compression test kits. I have really good Snap-on one, and I have the Lyle version of another brand. Or no, I'm sorry, it's a Mac version of what is the Lyle, I mean. As a backup.
Yeah.
And there's something else I have. I got two compression kits. I don't know if I said that one already.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, coolant.
But I
Yeah,
have done a lot of stuff because I mean, I bought like, I started with like a more basic set, and then I got like a bigger set, a nicer quality one, and then I got a backup. So I always heard the saying, and I kind of believe in it: you're only as good as your backups. And
yeah.
that doesn't mean I think that everyone needs to go out and buy doubles and triples of everything, but I mean, if you're doing that kind of stuff on the reg, it's sometimes you can justify it.
No, yeah. I mean, coolant pressure testers, compression testers, leak down test. You definitely need all that stuff as well.
I am
So yeah, I
surprised.
mean, to me, I would recommend this guy here. Buy the things you think you'll need slowly. One thing I think a lot of young guys need to do, which it, I'm kind of happy because I've had a lot of young guys. I've watched a lot of young guys do it, and that's starting investing at that age, right?
Yeah,
Even if it's the S&P 500, right? Right now,
yeah.
you got no bills. The career path in this industry is very narrow. So if you can start investing your money, at least 10%, hopefully make it to 30% at his age, at where he's starting off, hopefully by the time he hits 50, he don't have to do this anymore. But that's my best advice for him. Get what you need. Think of your return on investment. Any type of electric or air ratchets and stuff like that's definitely going to save you time. Definitely going to, but he says better pliers. I don't know what kind of pliers he has. You can always go get cheap pliers, digital torque wrenches. You will need that eventually. I wouldn't recommend buying that right away. Um, because those things are expensive. And the way he's looking, it sounds like he's going to buy a Snap-on one. But yeah, no. And you are right. Most of these comments are just go to Harbor Freight and buy Icon. But I can tell you, from having both, the quality isn't the same. But I'm fine with that because, like I said, I've had to sell, sell my tools at one point, and you get pennies of the dollar. So I'm like, I'm never doing that again. But hopefully, people with them never have to sell them. Anything I can recommend to any technician out there, if you got tools, don't don't ever sell them, man.
Yeah.
Keep them because you don't get anything back for them. What's your thoughts? Any last thoughts on this one, Craig?
Last thing I would probably add is I don't know what it is, but I feel like the first thing you start doing once you break out of the oil change bay is coolant leaks. So if that becomes you, like it seems to me that's what it is. So if that's you as a young technician, please don't ask to borrow a cooling system pressure tester more than 3 times. Just go buy one at that point. They're not very expensive.
No, I agree. Yeah, they are cheap enough. Yeah, and it depends on the shop, like, and the training program. Like, I feel like these shop, which is actually the next story we're about to get into. Kind of glad that lined up like that, but some of these shops don't have good apprenticeship programs, right? And if you get thrown in the shop as a young guy, one of two things are going to happen depending on the shop. you're going to get stuck with the crap nobody else wants, which I feel for you if you do, because that you're going to have to out hustle your lack of experience and knowledge, or you're going to get given a bunch of gravy work, and they're going to make sure you're turning hours and being productive. But regardless, the tools are going to change. There's some people in there that just say, here, start setting aside a little bit each paycheck for like a tool fund, which is actually, I'd have to find that comment. That's actually really good advice, right? Even if you don't, this guy don't know what's going to happen in 6 months or a year. It doesn't even sound like he really has a date on when he's moving out of the express lane. So that may be the best advice, honestly, on here is, yeah. So
You know what I think the last thing I would say is, now that we're talking about fund,
yeah.
don't finance them if you can.
Oh yeah.
Don't finance. Just keep it a truck account. Find the limit that guy's comfortable, or the girl, whoever is your truck person, and just keep it at that.
No, I agree. I hate so back when I was buying tools, I think the most financing I did was 90 days, same as cash on Snap on, and I'd just pay it off right
Mm.
before. And I honestly, I don't even recommend that if you don't know for sure you could pay it off. Like even at that time, I think, I could have bought cash, but I just like, well, here, 90 days, same as cash. I'll make sure I just pay it off 90 days. But yeah, honestly, one of the comments says, put money aside from every paycheck and quit buying off the truck. That's probably the best advice, honestly, for this young guy is put money aside for the tools you think you'll need, because you don't know if you'll need them yet, right? I mean, this guy could have some type of accident where he can't even work on cars in 6 months and don't even get to move out of the quick lube bay. So yeah, honestly, stepping back, looking at it, and I've seen that comment before and kind of wanted to address it, but the more we talk about it and think about it, that's probably the best advice. Just start a separate savings account or do something of that nature. Set money aside for the tools you think you'll need. And that might be 10% of your paycheck, 20% of your pay. I don't know what your paycheck is, but start setting money aside for tools that you think you'll need. And don't think you have to get on the tool truck to buy them. Like I said, when me and Craig came up, that was about all you had. Now you do have a lot of different options. The options, yeah, I don't think Icon really holds a tool. I actually got adapters from Icon from Harbor Freight, like 3/8 to a quarter and stuff like that. And as soon as I opened the box, one of the balls fell out the quarter inch, the 3/8 to quarter inch adapter, and it wouldn't even hold a socket on. I'm just like, yeah, there's a warranty. I can take it back, but it's still, waste of time. But yeah, the quality I don't think really holds up, especially for. I mean, this is something you're going to. This ain't something you're going to be using periodically, right? You're going to be doing this for a living. These tools are going to get used. They're going to get abused. It is good to have good quality. I think you're okay with Icon, but I don't think it's going to hold up to Snap on. But regardless, to answer his question, I do think the guy who said set money aside each paycheck. I think that's probably a good balance. You have any other thoughts on this one, Craig?
No, that's about it for me.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. And everybody, I do want to apologize, but I feel like it's 100 degrees where I'm at right now. I'm sweating bullets if you can't tell. um, so we're going to move into this next one, and this is pretty interesting, and this is what I think he really hits the nail on the head. Like it's I see this so often, it's crazy. Let's dive into this one. It says this is why shops, especially dealerships, can't keep new techs. So as says tech rolls in for an interview. Says he has a couple years of experience as a lube tech at a shop that was a bit of a dead end because they didn't do much, if any, heavy line or diag work. Maybe it was a mining key or whatever. Doesn't matter. He decides to go to the dealer because he's told over and over that's that's where you'll get the most training and specialization, and one brand will help you be comfortable and get paid more, yada yada, whatever. It says new tech finds himself getting an interview at a local dealer. The interview itself is about 10 to 15 minutes long. And before you know it, the new tech has been hired immediately as a service technician, line tech in the main shop. Happens so often. Says the new role is flat rate, but includes a 3-month guarantee of 45 hours a week, which honestly, most of them don't even guarantee 45 hours a week. I mean, unless they're working him, unless his schedule is a 50-hour a week schedule. It says, which he is grateful for, but after about 2 months in, he realizes he'll be out on his own as a flat rate tech with zero guarantee in 30 more days. And he still doesn't know jack crap. They say something else other than learning the new computer dispatch system, how to do video inspections, and some parts changing jobs. After 3 months are over, he's out on his own, consistently flags 30 hours or so because of the not knowing how to do many of the repairs and having to slowly figure it out. He gets frustrated and quits the industry. Some of them don't even turn 30 hours. And most of them that are turning 30 hours are usually getting help by another flat rate technician that's dragging on them. He says, I feel like this is a very common experience for many people, and please tell me if you think I'm wrong. There's a huge difference between someone who can change oil, tires, and brakes, and a B tech that can replace borderline any part of a car without a major issue. Every shop, especially dealerships, should have an apprentice program to help with the Lube tech transition into becoming a capable flat rate tech, putting them under a mentor for a year or two, and most won't do it. It takes years to become a solid mechanic / tech. Service managers and shop owners think a 3-month guarantee is enough of an apprenticeship for the new guy to learn how to tackle most repairs, and that's just not the case. And aside from the crap pay and the flat rate scam system, this is the main reason most new guys don't make it in this industry. Lack of proper training before thrown to the wolves of flat rate. Craig, I'll let you jump in on that one.
There's a statistic, and it is that within 2 years, 50% of the people that come into this industry are gone. And that is basically why, all in a nutshell. It's the guarantee actually surprised me more than anything. The guarantees what I'm used to are like 2 weeks. I think that's all I ever had. It was only a couple times, but yeah, I mean, this is the personification of a lot of the industry. This is very average experience. It's like you said, the 30 hours is probably a miracle with assistance from other technicians. It's too soon to put that pressure and put those expectations on someone who's not even really a B tech yet. They're still basically an oil changer and general repairs. And it's not their fault. They just don't have the experience to make that jump yet and be able to make the hours and produce the work. And to a point, getting thrown into the wolves is being put in a sink or swim position. It does kind of force you to survive and learn and adapt quick, but it's not healthy. And this is just another example of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this is, I couldn't tell you how common this is and how much it really drives the turnover rate, and it gives the industry a bad look. And it's happening everywhere, as you can tell. This guy, I don't know where he's from, but he's seeing the same thing. Like, dealerships are throwing young guys to it way too early without the proper training, without the proper knowledge, and they're getting burned out quick and leaving, like, within 12 to 18 months. And it's really insane. Now, the crazy thing is, like, when I think about this, I remember back in my young days, like when I came in, it was still almost like a thrown to the wolves type environment. But I've also went through vocational school, went through a 2-year GMA set program, and the stuff wasn't this complicated. It's totally changed at this point as far as how complicated everything is. And a lot of these guys coming in have no schooling, right? They might have a couple years as changing oil somewhere, but that going from changing oil to the main shop, that's way different, right? They need so much more training and experience. I mean, you've been in this for 19 years, Craig. You're still learning, right?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, that's what I've been at it for 25 years. I'm still learning every day. Like, it don't stop. This stuff isn't as easy as managers and everybody thinks it is. Like, it's a constant struggle with this technology. The technology's growing so fast. The issues. I remember days where wires and terminals. I'm going to say were normal. Nowadays, you got micro terminals, micro wires. Things are so you you can get a terminal that's just barely loose, cause so many problems that you'll be chasing. It's insane. But as far as like shops and apprenticeship programs go, once I want to say maybe 5 years out of my ASEP program, we had a very good fixed ops director. And, back then it was frowned upon. It was almost like an unwritten rule to hire technicians from other dealers, right? They almost had like a sense of camaraderie between dealers, like, hey, you leave my technicians alone, I'll leave your technicians alone. Now they're almost just going crazy trying to steal them from wherever. But my service director had something he called farm your own. Basically, we would get vocational kids, our kids out of the ASEP program, and we would train them. I mean, I remember at one point I would be training 5 guys well, not like underneath me as an apprenticeship. They would usually have one guy work with me for a month or two. I would say, yeah, this guy's might make it, or this guy's not going to make it, and we'll go from there. If they can make it, they would put them under, their own number, but then they would pay me a certain amount based on how many hours they turn, and I would still be, you know, required to help those guys as a flat rate technician. And I mean, there was times where I had 4 or 5 guys under me at a time, actually for a long time, because they would rotate out, and it was a pretty big shop, 25, 30 guys. And there was some days where, like, let's say a Friday, I would we the fixed ops director would let me pull a vehicle in and bug it and pull one of the technicians aside and see if they could find the bug, right? And it was just a straight training day. I remember I had a guy pulled a car in, and I just pulled a random fuse out of the fuse block, and I snipped the end that was basically going out for the power, and I put it back in, and the car didn't start. Like it had all types of issues. And like I said, I didn't even really look at the fuse. I just pulled one, snipped it. I looked at the fuse block. I don't remember exactly what it was, but so when you tested the fuse, it would light power on both sides, right? If you didn't pull the fuse and see the clip, you would think it was a bad fuse block. Um, and man, this guy went all day. He almost had it. And then somehow he ended up in the dash, tearing stuff apart. And the rule was we could do this as long as the car was put back together and ready to be on the lot for the weekend. So basically, we'd pull a used car in. I would bug it. He would pay a technician, let's say however long it took him to try to find the bug, diagnose the issue, which is stuff we do in hands-on classes for, GM and stuff like that. And that was, I mean, we grew so many good technicians and had such a low turnover rate. It was crazy. And then if you compare it to today, there's like none of that. You're thrown to the wolves. There's no training. You talk about a training day, there's no training whatsoever. And then it's thrown on the other flat rate guys in the shop. Hey, you got this new guy here, help him out. At what cost? Right? You're asking these guys who have to turn hours and pay their bills to help another guy turn his hours and pay his bills when really it's not their responsibility, right? It's the shop's responsibility to make sure everybody is trained properly and doing their job properly. Instead, you're basically robbing from other flat rate technicians to train a new guy, and they do it because, it's out of the kindness of their hearts. But, they don't want to see anybody suffer or struggle to turn hours. So yeah, I don't know. This one really hit home, and there's a lot of good comments in there as well. What's your thoughts on that, Craig?
It's kind of depressing because it is such a good representation of the industry, and a lot of these people that make these hires, not all of them, but a lot of them just don't care. I mean, they'll tell you, I need bodies, so I just hire whoever showed up to the and drug test. That's why they're on the floor. And they don't really care what happens after that.
No, what they don't understand is they're putting people's lives at risk, right? They're putting customers' lives at risk. They're putting their fellow technicians' lives at risk. They're putting this young guy's lives at risk. I seen a guy caught fire in the shop because he was torching something and it had a bushing in it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the rubber from the bushing basically flew on his pants, right? And his pants caught fire a little bit. Well, a young guy who just wasn't that new grabbed a fuel sample. Don't get me wrong, the fuel sample should have been marked and should have had a cap on it, the whole 9 yards. But how many times does a technician take a fuel sample of something in whatever container they can find and set it on the side? And he grabbed this fuel sample, threw it on the guy's, you know, pants that was up, yeah, and his whole leg. I mean, it was just it was crazy. It really was crazy, man. And
Did he not smell it? It feels such a powerful odor.
man, just to kind of give you a heads up, hey, this guy didn't even have a driver's license, so he should have never been hired.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did that. He did that after he dropped the car off the lift. Like this was a complete like, and where they were working was kind of in the back part of the shop. So like after all that, the manager comes to me. He's like, "Hey, can we put him with you so you can train him?" I'm like, "No, like nobody feels safe around this guy right now. Like, no, do not bring him at like he." I went through it. I'm like, A, he don't have a license. He can't drive. I'm not driving all his cars for him. B, he dropped the car off the lift within his first week. C, he just caught a dude on fire. Like nobody feels safe around. Like, no, that's not. I don't want to train the guy. That's like the only guy I've ever turned down from training. And eventually they finally moved on with him. But no, he just grabbed. Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a ton of people that can vouch for this. He grabbed the jar on the toolbox, which was a fuel sample, threw it on his pants. And I mean, this dude never came back after. Like he had third-degree burns. I'm pretty sure there was a lawsuit involved and all types of stuff. It wasn't good. Um, yeah, it was pretty bad. But that's what management does when they hire people without the proper training. You're risking wheels flying off. You're risking setting guys on fire. You're risking death, really. I mean, if you hire a guy and put him in a shop where you have all this stuff happening that can be very dangerous, and if you can't respect that and you just kind of throw him in there, you're showing everybody you really don't care. Like you said, a lot of these guys that hire them just don't seem to care. And I've heard jokes from management before, and they joke about it as we're joking about it with them, and they're like, "Oh, as long as they can fog up a mirror, that's not, that's not okay at all. Like that's not just because they can fog up a mirror, don't mean they need a job in the shop without the proper supervision and training." And that's what a lot of these places are lacking. You got any other thoughts on that, Craig?
I'm depressed now, but
Any comments that stick out to you?
there's so many of them. This was a rabbit hole one where you're on Reddit and you see the bar kind of shift over and over and over because everybody's responding to everybody's little thing. This one was tough to keep up with, but
Yeah, no, there's a lot. And there's so many points from different aspects of it. There's master techs on here talking about, the young guys who don't listen, who don't just follow. That is one thing. Like there's basic instructions in your resources that you need to follow before you come ask a guy for help. Even if that guy is paid to help you, like you're not doing yourself any services or doing yourself any good without trying to do it yourself, right? Don't just go say, "Hey, I got this code." What do you no, go read the flow chart, come get with me when you get stuck. And there's a lot of, master certified technicians commenting on that in here. But at the same time, there's a ton of guys in here saying, yeah, our dealerships have no apprentice programs. They just throw the guys to the wolves and you see them leave within 12 to 18 months. So yeah, I don't know if you're listening to this text, Tell us your experience. Tell us what you think. Does your dealership have a good apprenticeship program? What does it look like? There are some in here that they talk about that actually do have really good apprenticeship programs. And there was a comment that stuck out. I just can't find it right now. There's so many of them. Matter of fact, I think I screenshotted it just because I thought this was going to happen. Let me see if I can find it on my phone. Oh, that might be it right there.
You know what? I'll add a thought while you're looking.
Yeah, go for it.
This is kind of why I'm a believer in this point of a shop foreman that's not a working shop foreman, but is constantly watching over people and the younger technicians and always able to be reached for issues. A lot of dealerships don't want to get behind it because they see it as nothing but an expense. And it's usually a very expensive salary as well because you're paying a top level tech to be ready for everyone at all times.
No, I agree 100% with that. I mean, especially a shop that has a lot of young guys, you almost need that. Everybody, the shop foreman, they want them to help and train everybody, deal with everything else going on, and also turn hours. And that's hard for a guy to do in this day and age. And that shop foreman is usually getting all the crap work, all the electrical problems, all the nightmares. And no, I agree 100% with that. But I did find the comment, and this is really kind of how I feel about it. It says the second to last paragraph really hit the nail on the head. I worked at one dealership throughout the course of my 22-year career that did this. All new techs were placed with one of three team leads, and they would essentially apprentice until the team lead deemed them ready to flag on their own. Even though it kind of gets, it's kind of written weird. It says even the team lead would dispatch them jobs according to their skill level as they grew. The shop had almost zero turnover, paid really well, and everyone was happy most of the time. The service manager understood the value of investing in a person and eating the upfront cost of training for bigger returns down the road. Most other service managers I've worked for couldn't see past the end of the month, couldn't see past the end of the month numbers. So the thought of training someone was absurd, and their turnover rates were wicked high. And yeah, that comment was probably definitely hit the nail on the head because the example I've shared of my experience where, you had a fixed ops manager who actually basically cared about training and wanted to grow a shop. That shop still to this day has low turnover and a very good set of well-rounded technicians. Like they really do. Like that, that's one of the shops when they go to hire a new tech, they can be pretty selective because they're not just trying to hire a body. They got really good technicians there that know what they're doing and they've been there a long time. And when you have that type of environment, that's the kind of guys you get. You got any last thoughts on that one, Craig?
Now I think we covered that one pretty good too.
No, I agree. Well, we appreciate it. If you're still with us, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like, drop your comments below. We'll have all the links in the description, and make sure you go check out Craig on LinkedIn. We'll have his profile in the description as well. Follow him. But other than that, guys, that's it. I hope everybody stays safe out there and has a good one.